like reading laws, and I'm learning about them. I'm learning how to not be intimidated by laws and by men's claims against other men through the law, through the compulsory stream of words, sentences, phrases, and type, which is to say the code of Tennessee, which is like the code in your state. If you are from another place, another clime, you have one like it in your neck of the woods. This is David Tulis, and we are here arguing on the all-new Nooga Radio, all-new Nooga Radio 92.7 and 95.3 HD4. HD4, by the way, means high definition digital. We are Chattanooga's new favorite home for news and talk. And the obsession that I have, and maybe I can share it with you just a little bit, is in a distinction which allows for the operation of freedom and liberty in a very important and neglected area, one that legal historian Roger Roots, writing at Nooganomics.com, says is a lost right. And that is the right of locomotion, the right of self-propulsion, the right that you have, a property right to move about without permission, right? To move about without having to ask someone permission. Is it okay if I move from point A to point B? We live now in a time where everybody understands that you can't. Everybody is taught by public school, by their neighbor, by their friend, by the press, even by newscasts such as ones that emanate from our station, sort of innocently enough, suggesting that that everyone has to be a driver to use the public road. You cannot use the public road unless you're a driver. You cannot use it privately. You have to be under our authority. You have to be under our thumb, and you have to pay us to obtain a privilege. And everyone will tell you driving is a privilege. There's not a right to drive. There's a right. There's a privilege of driving, of operating a motor vehicle. Now, those terms are not neutral. They are freighted with legal meaning and legal claim. To be a driver is to be different legally than to be a traveler. To be behind the wheel of a car steering your way to the store, or steering your way with family inside to church, or on vacation, or simply doing some business in your profession, that is traveling. And legally, in the Tennessee Code annotated, the business of moving goods and people for hire in commerce, seeking profit, that is transportation. And that title in the Tennessee Code, which is Title 55, is subject to regulation. It is a regulable activity overseen by an agency that has no constitutional authority at all, and yet it's constitutional. And the reason I say it has no constitutional authority is this: it can't, in its operation, damage or offend your right to travel. It has authority over those who are subject to the statute, who are involved in commerce and transportation, who are involved in trafficking, right? In traffic, which is to say, the merchant use of the public asset, the roadways, the public asset, the highways, boulevards, lanes, roads, and other means of getting from point A to point B. The lines of tarmac that connect cities and towns and farms and unite people, right? The public transportation system serves business, and it serves everybody else. And there is a very large group of the everybody else. That would include the Amish. The Amish in Tennessee, there are quite a few of them in the Lawrenceburg area. There are some in the Etowah, Tennessee area between us and Knoxville. I've had occasion, as I go to visit an older, very old widow at a nursing home in Etowah, which is halfway to Knoxville, to pass these Amish or these Christian wagons of being controlled by young families who are convinced before God that they can't use cars. They have to use these old modes of getting about. And the issue last night in Wisconsin, in Wood County, was, should we as a county impose an ordinance on the Amish, on people who use the road privately and have always been, you might say, standoffish, and they've always been outside the control of the state, the regulation by that state against their free use of the public right of way. And a road is, it does belong to the people. I would say that's an argument you can make. And if you read the Tennessee Code annotated, which I have done, I've read word for word almost, Title 54 and 55, and also Title 4, which establishes these administrative agencies operating under administrative law only. Right? They can't offend anybody's constitutional rights, but they can only operate, and they do only operate administratively in the administrative law realm, and they make subject to that realm those people who are in commerce, who enter into a relationship with the state by application because they're in business, right? They're making a profit on the road. Well, this is David Tulis, and the number is 800-8949, 800-8949. And you say, well, that's just David Tulis is certainly quirky. He's a very quirky man. He wears old jackets. He wears the bow tie. He is the blogger with the biggest pen, and his shoes are scuffed, right? He has his pocket, his shirt pocket is bulging, and on one or two of his shirts, Jeanette hasn't caught it out of the stream of wearing. There are dots of black ink at the bottom of the pocket where I have unceremoniously put a pin in therein with the ball still out. The bow tie and the worn jacket with the frayed cuffs, and my blue jacket, just by the way, has a missing button, and the cuffs are badly frayed. If you look, if I hold my hand up to you, as if I'm making an oath, let's say, you can see the frayed cuff, and even my jacket today, I must say, has a worn spot on the shoulder. And if I hold up my cuff, you can see it there on YouTube. It's badly frayed, and I wear these jackets pretending to be well dressed, right? So, and that's there is some pretense here on the David Tulis Show where I say you should love your neighbor and buy local. The smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga. I love that because it's so amusing, and so in a way it's kind of wonderfully misleading because I'm the slow man of Chattanooga. I just don't get things. I just don't get them, and so I try to ask the dumb questions that bring hopefully fruity answers, and often when I deal with these people and their answers to me, the question really is better than the answer. This happens repeatedly. Where the answer is really just nothing. It's just a bit of piffle. And the question stands a monument to good sense, a monument to the slow man who asked the right questions. And I say that because many times in our day, we live under statute. We live under state control of just about everything. We're not a free people. And much of what's done sort of in our name is not done under proper authority. Much of what happens is illegal. Let me just say that the state itself is probably the largest violator of the law. And when individuals violate laws, you see their names sometimes in the headlines. There's a theft, or there's someone working in an office filches a couple $100,000 from the till. Those are private crimes. They're all just small potatoes, right? They're all just highlighted for us to remind us that these are sins. Theft is a sin, for example. It's wrong. And there has to be a trial or an admission and then restitution. We have these private examples of crime. And yet in our day, we are in large scale the victim of the state, which is in many ways, it acts like a criminal, but no one holds it to account. And the judges are very, very willing in the Tennessee courts to waive any notice that the state has offended an individual is constitutionally guaranteed, God-given, inalienable, and inherent rights. And I'm called an anarchist by mistake because I defend the marketplace and free enterprise. And to the progressive, the progressive, and to the Republican who is a conservative, someone like me is a marketplace defender and a constitutionalist. I am a harbinger of chaos, right? I'm the one inviting a disorder, anarchy, and yet, in fact, it's just the other way around. They are the ones whom are anarchistic in that they do not obey the rules. Last night in Wood County, Wisconsin, I'm reading here from a story. You can read it yourself if you want at the Facebook page of Nooga Radio, and it is from the USA Today Network, Wisconsin, out of Wisconsin Rapids. There's a proposal that is defended by Wood County Board Chairman Lance Plimmel, for example, to regulate the Amish and to make them bow down to the state in all of its wholesome and safe requirements, requiring proper lighting on horse-drawn vehicles and some level of education, the story says, for all those who drive them. Children younger than 10 have been driving horse-drawn vehicles. And some of them don't understand the meaning of stop sign, Plimmel tells that newspaper wire service. The officials have been trying to get the Amish schools to have some kind of lessons on safety and legally traveling on public roads, and has been trying to get an imposition of driver's license requirements, windshield requirements, side window requirements, seatbelt requirements on these horse-drawn buggies. And windows need to be made of safety glass, they insist. And if you have a child younger than 8 in your wagon, you need to have him in a child safety seat, right? And not only that, not only do we care about your safety, touching on the physical nature of these black hearse-like vehicles. They're very dignified, like spiders. They look like spiders rolling across the side of the road there, with the plains of wheat and crops in the background. You need to have insurance, right? You can't really be doing that without insurance, and you have to have the driver license. You have to be an operator, right? You have to change you from being a traveler on the reins to a driver. Now, drivers are people who are in service of another. They're employees, ordinarily in law, and they are involved in commerce. So you have to be an operator, and they're operators. So you here in Wood County, Wisconsin, we don't have any Amish people here, but as I say, in the Etowah area, north, east of Chattanooga, and west of Chattanooga in mid-state Lawrence County, there are Amish men and women, Amish families who are the best people. They are indeed the best people because they're not just exempt from certain requirements that the welfare warfare state imposes on everybody else. They are immune. They have immunity, having defended their rights and prerogatives. There's a professor of German specializing in the Amish and the Pennsylvania Dutch language at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. His name is Mark Loudon. He says that if the ordinance passes, the Amish will leave. There is no middle ground with this at all, he says. It is completely impractical. And yet, notice the goodwill that the ordinance seeks to impose on these innocent people. Now, here's something that when I consider this matter about the liberty of travel, I realize I'm arguing something that seems arcane and it's kind of petty. And it's coming from someone, I have been involved in litigation with the state of Tennessee about 20 years ago, and to demand a driver's license. I demanded a license to drive, understanding that I couldn't use the roads unless I had one, right? So I sued and demanded my rights as one who didn't have a social security number to have this license, which was being denied to me by the Commissioner of Safety, Mr. Green. So the case is Tulis versus Green, and it ended at the Court of Appeals. I did not pursue it further, having sort of worn out my welcome at home with Jeanette. She was in great distress already with my notions about how to be a free man and not live in fear of men. Right, that's what I was going to do. Not live in fear of men. The warning against fear is perhaps that most given in the Holy Scriptures. Do not live in fear of men. Live only in fear of God. And the fear of men is what has brought us into our current state. And President Trump, of course, in his economic security speech of a couple days ago, is playing on that fear as he plays with fears at every point. We need to have a border wall because we're afraid of strangers. We're afraid of people in yellow. We need to have an extreme vetting process because we're afraid of people from Muslim countries who have dreadful experiences and are refugees from evil countries with evil Muslim wars against their caste or their branch of Islam, and they're fleeing their country. They're trying to come here. Many of them are Christians, trying to relocate from their countries. And the play is on fear. And so here in Wood County, Pennsylvania, the same story. We can't have people freely using anything. We have to make them subject to us, and to bring them all into transportation legally. Here's what's happening in Wood County, Wisconsin. And the number, by the way, on here on David Tulis is 800-8949. We are the all new Nooga Radio, all new Nooga Radio, the favorite home, your favorite home here for news and talk. 800-8949, 800-8949. I always have time for your call, and you're not interrupting me. Okay, you're not interrupting me. Okay, I'm on a roll, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It is radio. We always have another hour, and if we run out of time today, we always have tomorrow. As I argue that you should favor the local theory, local economy, and the free market, where near is better than small, small than big, and simple than complex, and also down to the footnotes, because I love footnotes and Helvetica type. Personal is better than corporate, and physical is better than abstract. Brought to you by Nooganomics.com, Nooganomics.com. The distinction that this county in Wisconsin wants to make is this. It wants to delete an area of human activity called travel. It wants to absorb that area of free movement, which here in the Chattanooga area is enjoyed by undocumented immigrants, by undocumented Americans. It is enjoyed by the poor people who, many of them are black, right? Many of them are minorities. They travel as a matter of right, not knowing better. They can't afford insurance. They can't afford a new registration on their car. It's a matter of having their medication or an eating or paying insurance, paying for registration. And many of them have problems with the law they just can't solve. They have suspended licenses. They have revoked licenses. Though they're not involved in commerce, they are licensed to be in commerce. And because they are out of step with the reality that the state has imposed through Title 55, they are effectively criminalized. They are criminalized by traveling innocently, not in commerce, privately, for private purposes, on the roadway, the people's roads. The people cannot use the roads unless they make homage, pay obeisance, and enter the highly racially, economically discriminatory area, which is commerce. Commerce under Title 55, commerce in Tennessee, regulable under the police powers and under Title 55. And what happens is in Wisconsin, as in Chattanooga, as in Hamilton County, and in other parts of the state makes an overweening claim. It is acting outside of its authority. It is acting, as they say in Latin, ultra vires, pretending that you can't travel on the road, pretending that the family from Guatemala cannot possibly be on the roadway going shopping or going to church or going to visit a sick relative unless they have a license, unless they have all these proper forms, unless they are in commerce, where in commerce, if they have all these forms, they're saying, I'm involved in this activity. And that is the moving of goods and people for hire, for under contract, making a profit on the people's roads. It's understandable that the state regulates that. After all, these giant trucks are damaging and they're dangerous. They're dangerous to other people on the highway. What if they have a huge load and you're in a 40-ton rig and it breaks apart from stress fractures that you haven't noticed? You haven't made an inspection, so it breaks apart and throws your cargo all across the street and into vans and cars that are on the same highway with you. That's very dangerous. So this activity of making a profit on the road is rightly regulated by the Department of Safety. It's rightly regulated by the Chattanooga Police Department, by the Red Bank Police Department, East Ridge Police Department, and Saudi Daisy Police Department. But what if you're not involved in that? There is a case covered only by me. I'm the only journalist in Tennessee to make any notice of a case winding its way up in the appellate system, and that is the case of State of Tennessee versus Arthur J. Hirsch, a 60-year-old man, a longtime proponent of liberty, called the Fiddleman of Lawrence County. The Fiddleman of Lawrence County. The Fiddleman case, an important defense made effectively of the Amish, made effectively of and for the Amish in Tennessee, and for the Hispanic, and for the poor, and for black man who hasn't gotten his papers together, and for everybody else who is not involved in buying and selling the service of shipping people or goods for hire on the public road. That's the issue. And we are effectively the victims of commercial government in Tennessee. What we want is the Constitution to be restored. Governors, for candidates for governor, what are you going to do to bring back constitutional government for our benefit? This is David Tulis, Bigger Radio.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader.